All right, everyone, let's get going. Welcome to another episode of Accelo Best Practices. Today, we're going to be focusing on services and tickets. I'm your host, Tom. I'm an account manager here at Accelo, and I'm joined by Saga, who's the customer success officer, and will be the primary presenter today. Saga's going to run through a bit of a quick agenda here, and then we'll get stuck into it. As per usual, there is a Q&A section on Zoom there. Feel free to throw questions in as we go, and we'll try and address them where they're relevant or fit in with the presentation. And anything that we don't get to, we'll be happy to follow up with you afterwards. All right.
Thank you, Tom. And good morning or good afternoon to everyone. So the agenda is starting off with, how do we use the service module for my business? And then we lead into, how do firms in my industry use the service module? How do you capture all incoming requests? Setting up the ticket module and their progressions, and managing a large number of tickets over time. Again, a lot of best practices throughout all of these different action items. To start with, how does the service module fit in? So when we think of Accelo as a service operations platform, we think of your different sales, projects, retainers, and service. Going through each one, sales is for your different sales opportunities for your new or existing clients. Projects is for your long-term milestone and task-based work, while service is for your short-term ad hoc work. Retainers is for your recurring work or recurring billing cycles. So all four modules can potentially work together. And for a single client, you may have a sale, you may have a project, you may have a retainer, and a number of different tickets within our service module that are associated with it. So how does it fit in, say, for your business? Again, for every business and every industry, it's fairly different. But just using those simple kind of words, short-term ad hoc work. If you just kind of think about it, we don't necessarily need to create a project for, say, every piece of work. We may not need to have multiple tasks. It might just be something that you need to refresh, or you may need to answer a couple of client questions about, whichever. And we want to make sure we're capturing all of that time, because eventually it could either take away, say, from a budget from a support contract, or add to the time and materials that you're billing at the end of the month, as an example. So I want to categorize our service module into 4 different types. This is kind of what I share with a lot of my clients in implementation. So if you've worked with me in the past, you may recognize these sort of terms. So the 4 categories are out-of-scope project work, ad hoc retainer work, time and materials, and non-billable. When we think of out-of-scope project work, think when a project is complete, what happens? The clients may want a few changes that you bill for or don't, but you need to track that work from start to completion. When a project is ongoing, but is not part of the scope of work and you're looking to bill separately, that's another time you can create an out-of-scope project work ticket. Moving forward, you have ad hoc retainer work. So for example, you may have a list of support contracts for all of your clients. When a client wants something done, you can create a ticket and link that to your support retainer. So for example, you have a support contract with client A, they report a bug, you can create a ticket for that bug to track it from start to finish and link that to the retainer. And based on how that retainer is set up, it'll either add to the time that needs to be billed or take away from a budget. Also, again, looking at projects as more long-term milestone and task-based work, tickets could be your short-term work. So for example, you have maybe a new graphic design that your client's looking for, a PR release, a blog post, a W-2, or a client's maybe looking to purchase a piece of hardware that we don't necessarily need a full project for, but again, we want to track that time from start to finish. Last but not least, non-billable tickets. For sometimes you just may not be billing for certain tickets, whether they're internal or they're for your client. Again, maybe it's part of the scope that you have a warranty for a certain amount of time. Again, we have that option of just creating a non-billable ticket. So let's look at the different industries that I work with on a daily basis. Now, there's several more in this space, but just pointing out four for the last, say, 4 clients that I've worked with. In the accounting industry, a client hired 2 new people and you need to add it into their payroll system. A client is requesting a specific, simple tax form like a 1099 or W-2 for their employee, or a client wants to have a phone call discussing their upcoming tax return. Now, if you replace payroll, you replace 1099 and W-2, and you replace tax return, you can probably think about maybe different systems that you, say, manage for your clients, different sort of paperwork or documentation you provide, or maybe different best practice and other sort of advice that you provide to your clients. And similarly, for example, a client wants 2 people set up on Office 365, a piece of hardware is not working, or a client wants a new computer set up in the IT and MSP space. Okay. On the right-hand side, you see advertising and marketing agency and business consultants. Going back to a client wants a new blog post, you can create a new ticket. A client wants a new page to do on their website. It's not a long piece of work. It might probably just take a few hours. We can just create a ticket. Or a client wants to purchase 1,000 more flyers based on some work that you may have done through a project, but now they just want additional, say, flyers, and you can just create a ticket. Again, that could be your out-of-scope project work. Last but not least, your business consultants. A client wants to review their processes in an on-site engagement. You might have just a quick meeting. You create a ticket, and you can just bill same on time and materials basis. And same idea, a client wants to hold a 1-hour consulting session. So looking through this sort of workflow, so I kind of expanded this with a little bit blurry, but it starts with the initial contact. How are these messages coming in? So first, it could be an email that's basically sent to you. It could be a note on a client record that needs to be converted over into a ticket. It could be a phone call. It could be a meeting. All of those options can be converted into a different ticket. Next, we bring up the idea of using different request inboxes. So for example, a client can email your support@Accelo email address. That goes into Accelo's, at least our own team's request inbox, in specific support inbox, that we can then convert over into a ticket if we so wish to do so. You can also create requests. So for example, a phone call comes in, or you're not the one, managing, say, the tickets system. You can create a request for the tickets team to then go in and manage that ticket. Otherwise, you can just go directly into creating a ticket. There may not be an email or anything in place. You can just go ahead and create that ticket. Now, part of that ticket is you need to set it up for it to be worked on. So you choose a ticket type, you have a ticket subject, you have a ticket description. So think of your title and body and content, other ways to phrase that. And then you go into ticket work in progress. So we set a budget, we put in different custom fields for tracking different information. We push it to work in progress, in which case we log time. When we're done, we close the ticket. We put things called resolution notes and resolution type. And why those are important is because on each ticket, you'll notice, again, what is that resolution straight away on the right-hand side that we'll see. And then we can also notify that given client. So this is how that ticket structure is. Now, this ticket can last, say, 10 minutes. It can last 2 hours. It can last 4 hours or even 8 hours, depending on how long you manage your tickets. When I mean 8 hours, I'd say 8 billable hours, not necessarily 8 hours within a day. Okay. So this is kind of, again, the overall process that we're going to be discussing today and going through, say, each of these different steps so you're able to manage all of your given tickets. Okay. Again, feel free to ask any questions along the way, and we're going to dive into Accelo itself to see how we can set up this for your team. Okay. So just give me a minute. So now we're brought into one of our demo accounts in Accelo. You can see fun things like frog or body. But anyways, as we go through this, again, it really starts with what is that initial, point of contact the client is reaching out to you. So what I mentioned was there's a couple different options. The client can send you an email, you can convert a note, it could be a meeting invitation, it could be anything of that sort. So for example, if we go into this or any sort of activity, you can convert any activity in your, say, deployment into a given ticket. You'll be able to just hit this drop down, these three different dots, and convert it into a ticket. Now, these activities rest in different areas. This also includes your given inbox. So you can convert it directly off a stream, or what's probably more likely is you're converting it directly off one of these different emails in your system, where you can go ahead and just convert over into a ticket. Okay. Yeah. So two things. You may have an activity that's a meeting, a phone call that has already been logged. You decide you want to convert it into a ticket. You have that option by those two ways I just mentioned. Opening up just the activity itself, or just in your inbox, if someone emails you, you can convert that directly into a given ticket. Okay. The other options are going into the different request inboxes. So clients can email in to the different request inboxes. I'm going to see if there's any here that we can use. Otherwise, you can even create some. So basically, we can take any email that comes in and also convert it over into a request. You'll notice that this specific request was converted over into 423. But let's kind of uncheck all of these and then go through and say create a request. So I'm going to close this. We can go through and create a request. The idea is we can pick a specific company, say Lake Savers or Kelsey at Lake Savers, choose the different request type, say support, and say can't log in as an example. Say we get a phone call and someone not on our support team answers that phone call, they can create a request for our support team to start managing, say, that given request. And you can create that request if I refresh and pull that in. Again, that request will then kind of show up in terms of that request inbox. Now from here, we can always go through and convert over into a new ticket or different ticket types. Now this is all based on our request configurations. Now if you think of if you have any of your info at, contact us, any sort of those communications that your clients email you for, say, work, it's fairly easy to set up this request configuration. We have a separate, really short webinar on how to do so. It really just goes into what types of requests do you want, and we need to set up a forwarding rule from your distribution list or Google group. Distribution list is more Office 365. Google group is more Google, your G Suite. And we can, all you need to do is set up a forwarding rule, and then all these emails will be brought over from your different respective clients and contacts. Request is one exception where we might bring in emails that are not from already existing clients and contacts, because we do have an option. For example, you have an info at address. They may not already be a company or contact in your system, but we want to capture that email and possibly convert them over into a company or contact. Okay, so let's go back into this PowerPoint. So you see, you can convert over an activity. Any email that comes into that request inbox, you can convert. You can also create request inbox, like basically activities. Or last option is we can just go through and convert or just add in a ticket itself. Let's go through and add in a different ticket. So as an example, we can use needs a new logo. They need a new logo, like Service needs a new logo for their future. We can choose a specific contact. And then what's important is choosing the type of ticket it is. Again, from a categorization perspective, from an automation perspective, it allows you to then know, what is this ticket for? So let's use time and materials. There's no support contract, there's no retainer, but if there was a retainer, you can go through and choose whichever retainer it is. Again, there's probably a lot of examples here because this is a dummy account, but usually there will only be one or two. Okay. You have different class levels. You have a priority. Suppose it's extreme. We can notify, say, the respective individuals that are the leaders of the team. Okay. Again, all of these are customizable. So we're going to create that ticket. So what we see here is a ticket open notification. When you open up that ticket, you have an option of adding a progression action. This is where the automation comes in to notify Alden that we've opened up a new ticket on their behalf. Again, all of this text is customizable. Okay. Skip this for now. And now we're viewing a given ticket. Now there's a couple things to keep in mind for this ticket. We have a title on the top left-hand side. We have different activity and log time options. We can go through different tools. We can get some more information about the client by just clicking onto that basically card, as we call it. We have the ticket details right here. And then if you'd like, if it's more of a longer term ticket where it's not just a quick in and out, you can add different team members. For, say, different individuals are working on this given ticket, we do have one directly responsible assignee, but we can add different team members for it. These team members can be internal, or they can be external on your client side or on your vendor and partner side. You have different key dates. Suppose you have a due date and such. We have your different budget and work. This goes into, again, that time and materials ticket. Is it non-billable? Is it based on your staff rate? So for example, our CEO may have a different billable rate than I do. Or based on a defined rate where we can go through and choose, say, consulting at, say, 5 hours. Now this will refresh it for the entire basically ticket, and we can just hit save. You'll notice that you now have a budget on this bottom left-hand side. Now, if you log time directly against this ticket, again, it'll take away from that budget or just basically add to this amount. As you go through, again, we set up some best practices. So we'll walk through basically what that means. So you notice it's fairly simple up here. We have open and an assigned ticket. Now you may open up a number of tickets and then somebody else might be assigning that given ticket. So we can just click on that option. Essentially, we've assigned that ticket already. And then we can go into, is it, say, closed? Or we can have some different notifications, say, resolved, right up here. So I'm noticing it says work in progress instead of resolved. And that might take us to kind of our next point. How can we edit these progressions up here to match up what we're looking for? So what you see right here is there's a title, and there's also what it's progressing to. So each of these are different statuses, the different statuses of a given ticket. We can go through our admin configurations. Again, to get here, I hit this top left module button and hit configuration to go to different tickets. I can then hit progressions and fields. And the reason we do this is because each type can have different progressions and fields. So for example, for an ad hoc retainer ticket, you don't see work in progress. Personally, I think it's a best practice to keep it fairly standard. So this is as simple as it gets. You have available and create to open. We can add in a ticket opened notification. We can go into assign work, open to work in progress, and then we can go in work in progress to resolved. One thing I noticed right here is it says work in progress, and we want to change that title. So I can just click into this progression, and I can put in ticket resolved. As soon as I make that edit, I can go back into the given ticket I was working on and see that upgrade. So you notice this is the title of that progression. This is what you see right above here. So ticket resolved. Again, making edits on those progressions are fairly simple. We can go back here, again, available on create to open. You have a ticket open notification, assign ticket, we have open to work in progress. What's nice is we can also go through and add in different special processes. Special process is like be able to assign out work or unassign. You can also go through and automatically link to a retainer, but that would be possible if you only have one retainer per client. Otherwise, you'll notice we're about to hit resolved and there's 4 different options that pop up. Again, when we're looking to quickly manage all of these different work, there might not be that many time entries. So for example, new logo. We can go through, log time, add activities, maybe send emails and such directly against this ticket. But as soon as it's resolved, we don't even need to click this and then resolved. We can just directly click ticket resolved. We put in what is that resolution type. So, and we can customize this. So we can have a work log. Again, this is why I said, potentially we can just put here, how long did it actually take? Say 20 minutes. And you can save that time. And then we can have an issue close notification that might include more details than just this. Again, you can include that resolution type, resolution notes, and so on, and have that templated out. Yep, and a question was, we've been adding tickets to notify the client at the resolution stage. Is it mandatory? At the moment, we don't want this to happen. And it's not mandatory. Again, you'll notice that I skipped it. So you have the option of having it there, but then just skipping it if you don't want it. Or you have the option of just taking it out and just putting it maybe in the closed stage. So what's the difference between resolved and closed? The idea is resolved is more along the lines of the tech or whoever is working on it basically has resolved that given ticket, versus closed is, say, the admin staff has gone through this ticket, everything's makes sense, and it's ready to be billed. Potentially, you can have another status or another progression from resolved to work in progress. And just to kind of see what that looks like. Can look up resolved. Back into work in progress, and you can say revisions needed. Okay. So another question was in the chat, Tom. Can you make a ticket appear in your task dashboard? Jen, I believe you might be talking about our task board. And we can make a ticket appear. It is a little bit tricky. And the trick is, in a way, is just every time you open up a ticket, you automatically create a task. And we can template a task to be created so it shows up on that task board as you might find helpful. And another thing to kind of think about is using a combination of list screens as well as our new schedule dashboard. So again, this is kind of leading into how to manage a large number of different tickets at a time. Might have different filters. We can then go to our new schedule dashboard and have basically your list of tickets that might be, say, I'm just gonna see new and unassigned. We have a list of tickets that pop up. And you can have your different tickets here to kind of take a look at basically what needs to take place. Okay, so again, 2 options. We can automatically create a task, and I would say that's fairly common. Otherwise, you can use things like schedule a dashboard and list screens for basically customizing your own dashboard. Okay. So remember, when we look at those different customizing progressions and types, that is part of our premium package. So if you're noticing those settings are not showing up in your configuration, then it's possibly because you're not in the premium part. Another question: to be scheduled on a user basis, which we have to do. So I believe you might be saying, I want to schedule these tickets to be worked on, say, by your techs. So let's go through a little bit of advanced kind of configuration. So working with our clients, that was basically the case. What they said was, when we assign the ticket, we also want to schedule that ticket to take place for a specific time. So what I said was, okay, let's go through, and remember, an activity can also be a meeting, which can also just be scheduled for a single individual. So if I go to time and materials, and I go to assign ticket, we can have an activity. And say you pull up your, Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, whichever. So we put in ticket assignee. Nope. Try to copy and paste this. So you can add in all of those details right here. So hi, basically ticket manager, and so on. Put in all of this given information. And essentially within those progressions, you can have a templated out meeting invitation where you just choose what time do you want to schedule it for. I'm going to add in a company name. Okay, so company name, title, description, ID for that ticket, and scheduled. So what does that kind of look like? Now there's one extra step that's very small to do so. So if I go through and create a ticket, we can go through and put in like savers, say new ticket, just as an example, using time and materials because that's the one we configured. Again, each type can be different. We have the ticket open notification. We're skipping that because say the ticket's not assigned yet. And then we can hit assign ticket. This is where we're going into, say, scheduling work to say take place. So we have that assigned ticket. You can then hit meeting. Again, this is key. Yes, you can go through team scheduling. That's a little bit more advanced. Or you can just hit meeting. You have a calendar open and you can schedule when you want that to take place. This individual will receive a notification as well as a calendar invitation that pushes over to his or her calendar for, say, this meeting. Okay, so again, what we did was we created a template, say, meeting invitation for the calendar. That's basically a calendar block to work on this given ticket. Okay. So again, we don't necessarily need to create a task to schedule work. That is true for team scheduling, but you can just use the meeting option within an activity to schedule work as well, if you know when you want them to work on it. Okay. So as we kind of move forward and kind of closing up, I don't want to take too much of your time this morning or this afternoon. So we might be managing a large, say, number of given tickets. So as we manage that large number of different tickets, we might want to use different tools. So first, and foremost is that list screen. We can filter this list screen by several different options, by priority, by age, by status. There might be different escalation levels, which you can use. So first, you can go by, say, assignee. And to set up different filters, all you need to do is say save as. If you hit save as, you can put in, I don't want this to be shared because it's my own tickets. And I can save that filter. Again, there's shared team filters, but I can have my own filters as well. Okay. Otherwise, again, you can take it one step further and have, just several different options right over here. Yep, that's a great question. When should we be using tickets over tasks? Now, tickets, you'll notice, are more, you convert over an activity, you want to track it from start to completion. Tickets is also where you can bill from, because you can bill from a ticket. Now, a task is underneath a ticket. So if I open up any given ticket, say there's one assignee, you probably don't need a task unless you're looking to use a task board. However, we can have tasks within tickets. So think of tickets as more an object and tasks as more to-dos within that ticket. Remember, you can't just bill from a task if you add it to a client record. You bill from that ticket because they have those customized progressions. They have customized tools for that purpose. So to kind of answer your question, tickets are just, think of a more bigger object, and tasks are to-dos within that object. Now, you don't necessarily need to use tasks within any ticket. Okay. So again, we looked at that different schedule dashboard, but we also have a ticket dashboard to just get some basic information as the time goes on. For tickets at risk, again, these are all clickable, and the different types of tickets that you have, the number of count, say in the past period of time. You can see performance by individual, ticket volume, to get some basic ideas of how things are going at any given time. So another question is, can we easily make a ticket not billable in the case where a ticket is used for an internal work? Yes. So let's look through how to do so. And this also goes through automation. So if we put in for tickets, we can go to progressions and fields. We can then go through non-billable. And this really hasn't been set up. So let's look at open. So when it's open, we want to make sure that this ticket is automatically non-billable. I'm going to go through and hit update rate. I believe I can also hit special process. I'm going to hit rate, and I'm going to say this is non-billable. I can add in another rate here that I'll essentially say non-billable, and you can just make it hidden. So again, we just need to add another rate into our admin config, add in non-billable, and anytime a ticket is created for a non-billable ticket, it's automatically non-billable. Now the same thing can go if you want to have maybe a specific rate. Say the default rate, it's automatically assigned to a specific rate, because a lot of times teams don't want to share rates with, say, their techs and such. That's fairly common. So you can have it automatically assigned to a specific rate to start with. Again, we can assign it to a specific rate type, which can be different for different clients through divisions. Another question is, when can we use tasks without a ticket? Now, tasks can be associated underneath your sales, projects, tickets, and retainers. Again, tasks are just to-dos. Last but not least, it can also be associated with companies. So for example, a task can be, need to follow up with, say, Tom on a sale that's due in 1 month. Or Tom said to follow up with him after 6 months. Other tasks can be, I need to create things, I need to create a quote, I need to do things like that. But again, if it's billable, you'll need to have one of these, the task will need to be under a project ticket or retainer period. Okay. Another question. So there isn't a way to create reoccurring tickets, but there is a way to create reoccurring tasks. And that's mainly against our retainers modules. So remember what I originally said, it could be reoccurring work or reoccurring um, billing cycles. So for example, you have a support contract, but every month you upgrade the OS of a computer. That'd be a task that's reoccurring within a retainer period. And that goes into this retainer option. So you can go through and add in different task templates that'll keep reoccurring per period duration, say each month. Now what's nice is, again, going into one of the last parts of today's webinar is when you create these different retainers, we can have a number of different tickets associated with it. So one of the options was ad hoc retainer. And anytime you have a support contract, you might have a number of different tickets that you may want to create over time and track till completion and use automation that it's linked to a retainer. Now, all you need to do is what we saw earlier. If there is an open retainer for that given client, it's super easy. And it could also be automated if there's, say, one retainer per client. You see there's no retainer option here, but when you start looking up a given client that may have a retainer, that retainer option shows up. Okay. So even if a task isn't billable, can you track time on it for a ticket or the project? Yes, within a project and a ticket, again, you can track time. Now, some time in general might not be billable. Like if you're logging time against a given ticket, you have the option of making anything billable because you'll see the dollar sign. So if I bring up the given tickets that I just did, I'm going to recently viewed. I can hit log time, and there'll be a dollar sign if the say was a billable ticket. So I can go through, make this a billable ticket. If I log time, there's a dollar amount. If I want to make it billable or not billable. Again, when you're logging time against a task, you can just go ahead and choose a billable or not billable option for that time. Now for a project, we can even take it one step further. You can go through and you can mark a specific task as not billable to start with. So question was, can we log time directly on a specific task? Yes, you have those tasks and you can track usage also in budget. So you can go through and just log time directly against that given task within that ticket. Again, it can be billable or not billable. Now, if the ticket overall is non-billable, then everything in this ticket would be non-billable. Okay, these are good questions. So, and we're kind of inching towards losing some people. So feel free to keep asking questions. Yeah. Okay, it seems like people are out of questions, at least for the moment. I'm just checking the Q&A. But otherwise, kind of closing up, I think I'll hand this back over to Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Saga. Our best practice video library, it's some of the ones we've run recently. You can see there Xero and QuickBooks, team scheduling, some workflow automation, etc. This session will also be added to that, but you can find all our previous best practice webinar sessions at that URL right there. We run these every couple of weeks, 8 a.m. Pacific, and I believe 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. Pacific. It does change a little bit, but we always update the times in our blogs. Our next one's going to be in a couple of weeks, focusing mainly on G Suite and Office 365. And again, the information for that will be released through our blog. And as always, we're very much up for suggestions. We definitely listen to all client feedback that comes through at bestpractices@accelo.com. So make sure you send through some ideas there. And if you've got any follow-up questions, also send them through there and we'll be sure to get back to you. All right.